Welcome to another episode of Depreciation Nation, and it is time that we bring one of those projects back, and that project is our long-term Jalopy X3 that was the very first vehicle to premiere on the channel, and that some of you have been following for some time. And Dareth and myself were up at Atlanta Motorsports Park with our wives a few weeks back.
Fun times.
And yeah, that was a good time. And on the way back, ironically, out of nowhere, the right front brake started grinding on our Project X3. Part of this is my bad because I am a big proponent to maintenance, and I am very big on preventative maintenance, and I'm very big on simple checks to be sure that you don't lead to more expensive problems later on. Unfortunately, I did not do that in this particular scenario because all BMWs for the last 20 years, honestly no, since 1984, which would be the oldest car that I had, or my older brother had, with a pad wear sensor on it, used to tell you when you needed brakes. And we found in the process that somebody had actually clipped the wires to that sensor and had twisted them together to ground that system out, which is kind of a workaround on that project. So today we're going to get to the brake replacement. We are going to put proper pads, we are going to put proper rotors on it, and the proper pad wear sensors, so that when we do have pad wear in the future, we know our brake linings are getting close. So let's get right into it. So we've got the brakes completed on the X3 as you initially saw, and now we are actually on our way to an auto parts store to get an oil filter for literally another project. And although he's not in the frame, Dareth is here to the right.
Hey.
And how do we feel?
I'm safe. Like, honestly, having this brake change and everything, the car feels a lot smoother.
I agree.
It feels a lot smoother.
And to be quite honest, it had a noise that sounded like perhaps the front right wheel bearing was going bad, and
scraping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's the smoothest the car's been since we got it. We are going to show you the parts that came off of the vehicle here in just a little bit. And then, of course, there is a proper bed-in brake procedure for the pads that we bought and we installed. But all in all, we've got no lights. Of course, we replaced the pad sensors, as you saw earlier in this segment. But yeah,
it feels good.
Yeah,
and that's what's important. Beyond the car language, if you can confidently and comfortably drive and stop, that's the best thing in the world. Like, stopping is very important when you drive a car. So,
and one of the things that we talk about in these videos is a value conscience based product. I'm going to tell you that brakes and suspension components are something where I do not cut corners and I do not cheap out, because it is very, very important that, since they are
life and death to everybody in the car, that in that scenario that they work, and that they work every time. So we're going to show you the parts here in just a second. We're going to continue on our way to the auto parts store, and we'll talk to you in a minute.
So that wraps the brake replacement on our X3. For this project, we used WBR pads. We used high carbon, original performance, platinum brake discs. For the subject of this video, the back brakes were fine. The front brakes were the brakes that needed replacement. We got our parts from a local parts supplier called Imparts. Link to their website is down in the description, along with a link to the parts that were used for this particular project. All in on this project, the total cost was $213.01. This is not a sponsored video. I spent that money out of my pocket. And I do like the folks at Imparts because most of the time they steer us pretty right, and most of the time they do bring value to us where they can. Something worth noting on our Project X3 is that I don't exactly know what went on with the brake pads, and the reason I don't know what went on with the brake pads is because when we changed the brakes, the front left rotor had not been replaced. The front right rotor had been replaced. There were seemingly newer pads on the left rotor, and the right rotor had metal on metal, so it seems as though this was either a previous salvage yard repair, in which previous people that owned this vehicle could not afford to make the repair, so they bought used parts from a salvage yard. When Dareth and I were in the car talking, we said we were going to show you those parts, and we had every intention of it. And so here we are.
Pretty beat up.
It is pretty beat up. And what I want to talk about is BMW recommends replacing the rotors at the same time that you replace the pads. Ironically, you will see us cut some corners on this channel, but when it comes to brake systems, you will never see us cut corners on anything. Brake systems and suspension components need to work over and over and over again. Brake failure is not simply an inexpensive part, it's potentially a life, as is a suspension component failing. Now, I indicated that there were new pads on or at least seemingly newer pads on the driver's side, and a seemingly used rotor, which honestly has a groove worn into it that's so thick, it is about a quarter, as in the coin, a quarter width on the back side, and it is about a dime width on the front side. And to be quite honest, I had to compress the caliper a fair bit to even get the caliper off the assembly. And then we have some sort of a hub damage right here. Again, my best assumption is that used parts were placed on this vehicle prior to my taking possession of it. And again, this is on me for not having caught it and done something sooner. And then lastly, these are the pads that came off of it. And there is some pretty extreme wear. So regardless, we've taken care of the issue. It was $213.01 as mentioned. Again, that pretty much wraps this project. Thanks for watching. Remember to comment, like, subscribe. Remember that we vary our content weekly. So if you didn't like what we did this week, check back next week. We'll probably have something much more unique. And remember, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe so that you don't miss awesome videos like this. And more importantly, sometimes there's some public service announcements, or there are some fun stuff like Mr. Beck and Mr. Popst and Ms. Sarah Montgomery, and even Summer Del Sol with her Exoset build. We haven't seen the last of her. So thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.